Leora's hand shook as she organized the data tablets on her desk. She had been working at the Meridian 7 space station for 3 months now, and every day brought the same fear. Humans walked these corridors. Real, actual humans. She was Valerian, a species known for their pale blue skin and silver eyes that could sense emotions. Her people came from a peaceful world where conflicts were rare and violence was almost unknown. When the Galactic Coalition had accepted humanity 5 years ago, the Valerians had protested. Everyone knew the stories about humans. They came from a death world called Earth, where everything tried to kill everything else. They had evolved as persistence hunters, chasing their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They had fought wars that killed millions of their own kind. Leora had seen the reports. Humans could run for hours without stopping. They could heal from injuries that would kill most species. They could eat toxic substances for pleasure and call it spicy food. Their world had weather that could freeze or boil water, and they lived in both extremes. They kept predators as pets, animals with sharp teeth that could tear flesh. The worst part was their emotions. Humans felt everything so intensely that it overwhelmed Leora's empathic senses. When a human walked past her in the corridor, she could feel their emotions like a wave crashing over her. Anger felt like fire. Joy felt like electricity. Even their calm was intense, like a storm waiting to break. Today was worse than usual. A new human diplomat had arrived at the station, and he would be working in her department. Leora had requested a transfer 3 times, but her supervisor kept denying it. The Valerian government wanted their people to learn to work with humans. They said it was important for galactic unity. Leora thought it was asking too much. The door to the Cultural Liaison office opened. Leora's supervisor, an elderly Valerian named Taran, entered with a human man beside him. Leora's breath caught in her throat. The human was tall, much taller than any Valerian. He had dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. He wore the simple gray uniform of the diplomatic corps. "Leora, this is Jiho," Taran said. "He will be working with our department on human Valerian cultural exchange programs." Jiho smiled and extended his hand. Leora stared at it, frozen. She knew this was a human greeting, but the thought of touching him terrified her. Those hands could break bones. Those hands had evolved to throw weapons and climb impossible heights. "I understand if you prefer not to shake hands," Jiho said gently, lowering his arm. "I know Valerians find physical contact with unfamiliar people uncomfortable." His voice was deep but soft. Leora felt a wave of genuine kindness from him, tinged with understanding and a little sadness. It confused her. How could a human, a creature evolved for violence, feel such gentle emotions? "I will show you to your workspace," Leora said quietly, not meeting his eyes. Over the next few days, Leora did her best to avoid Jiho. She arrived early and left late. She took her meals at odd hours. She volunteered for assignments that kept her in different sections of the station. But Meridian 7 was not that large, and eventually they had to work together. Their first shared assignment was reviewing security protocols for the upcoming Galactic Cultural Festival. Leora sat as far from Jiho as possible in the conference room, her body tense. "I have been reading about Valerian culture," Jiho said, working on his tablet. "Your people have not had a war in over 3,000 years. That is remarkable." Leora glanced at him, surprised. "You studied our history?" "Of course. I want to understand the people I work with." He looked up and smiled. "I also learned that Valerians prefer cooler temperatures. Is this room comfortable for you, or should I adjust the climate controls?" "It is a little warm," Leora admitted. Jiho immediately stood and adjusted the temperature controls. Within minutes, the room cooled to a more comfortable level. Leora felt his satisfaction at helping her, a warm glow of pleasure at such a simple act of kindness. "Thank you," she said, uncertain. "You are welcome." They worked in silence for a while. Leora kept glancing at Jiho, trying to understand him. He moved with controlled grace, economical and precise. Every motion had purpose. It was beautiful in a way that frightened her. This was a body designed for survival, for overcoming obstacles, for enduring. Then the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A computerized voice announced a security breach in the docking bay. Leora jumped to her feet, her heart racing. Jiho was already moving toward the door. "Stay here," he said firmly. "Lock the door behind me." "What is happening?" Probably nothing serious, but protocol requires all non-security personnel to shelter in place. He left quickly. Leora locked the door with trembling fingers. She could hear shouting in the corridors, the heavy boots of security forces running past. Her empathic senses were overwhelmed by waves of fear, determination, and aggression from all directions. Minutes felt like hours. Then she heard weapons fire. Leora pressed herself against the far wall, making herself as small as possible. More shouting. A loud crash. Then silence. The door chimed. "Leora, it is Jiho. You can open the door now." She hesitated, then unlocked it. Jiho stood there looking calm but alert. There was a cut on his forehead, bleeding slightly. "What happened?" Leora asked. "A small group tried to steal medical supplies from the cargo bay. Station security stopped them. Everyone is safe now. You are injured." Jiho touched his forehead and looked at his fingers, now smeared with blood. It is nothing. Just a scratch." But Leora could see the wound was not nothing. She could also feel his emotions, the adrenaline still pumping through his system, the relief that no one had been seriously hurt, the lingering alertness of someone ready to fight if needed. "You went toward the danger," she said. "Why would you do that?" Jiho looked confused. "I am trained for crisis situations. It is my job to help. But you could have been killed. So could the people who needed help." He said it so simply, as if there was no other choice. Leora stared at him, seeing something she had not expected. Yes, humans were dangerous. Yes, they were capable of terrible violence. But this human had run toward danger to protect others. That same capacity for violence had been turned into a shield. She did not know what to think anymore. "You should see a medical officer about your injury," she said finally. Jiho smiled. "I will. Thank you for your concern, Leora." After he left, Leora sat alone in the conference room for a long time, trying to understand what she had witnessed. Everything she knew about humans said they were dangerous, but everything she had felt from Jiho said he was kind. Maybe humans were more complicated than the story said. Or maybe that was what made them truly frightening. They could be both things at once, dangerous and kind, violent and gentle. Leora was not sure which possibility scared her more. The message arrived during breakfast. Leora read it 3 times, hoping the words would change. They did not. Due to a computer error in the scheduling system, she and Jiho had been assigned as co-coordinators for the Galactic Cultural Exchange. The position required 6 months of close collaboration, daily meetings, and joint planning sessions. The message said the error could not be corrected without causing major delays to the project. Leora put her head in her hands. 6 months. She would have to work closely with a human for 6 months. Their first official meeting was scheduled for that afternoon. Leora arrived exactly on time, not a minute early or late. Jiho was already there, reviewing files on his tablet. He looked up when she entered and smiled. "Good afternoon, Leora. I received the assignment notification. I know this is not ideal for you." Leora's silver eyes widened slightly. "You know, I notice things," Jiho said gently. "You leave rooms when I enter. You avoid the cafeteria during human mealtimes. You have requested 3 transfers since I arrived." He paused. "I understand. Many species are uncomfortable around humans." Leora felt shame wash over her. She had not realized she was being so obvious. "I apologize. It is not personal. I know. We have a frightening reputation." Jiho gestured to the chair across from him. "But we have to work together now, so perhaps we can make the best of it. I promise to respect your boundaries." She sat down, maintaining as much distance as the small conference table allowed. They began reviewing the project requirements. The Galactic Cultural Exchange was a major event that brought together species from across the coalition to share art, music, food, and traditions. Planning it required coordinating with dozens of different cultures, each with their own needs and customs. As they worked, Leora found herself watching Jiho. He was meticulous in his planning, asking thoughtful questions about each species' requirements. When they discussed the Valerian cultural presentation, he had already researched traditional Valerian music and art. "I was thinking we could feature the Light Singers," Jiho said. "Their performances are supposed to be extraordinary." "You know about the Light Singers?" Leora asked, surprised. "I watched recordings of their last performance. The way they use bioluminescence to create visual art while singing is amazing. I have never seen anything like it." His genuine enthusiasm was palpable. Leora felt it through her empathic senses, warm and bright like sunlight. It was not what she expected from a human. Over the following weeks, they fell into a routine. Morning meetings to review progress. Afternoon work sessions to handle logistics. Jiho always arrived with 2 cups of tea, one for himself and one for Leora. After the first week, she noticed he had switched to Valerian blend tea, which had to be special ordered from the station's merchant quarter. "You did not have to do this," she said. "Accepting the cup, I wanted to," Jiho replied. "Besides, I like trying new things. This has a nice flavor." Small gestures like this became common. Jiho adjusted the room temperature before she asked. He scheduled meetings around her preference for morning work. When she mentioned missing a particular Valerian food, it appeared at their next meeting. He never asked for thanks or acknowledgement. He simply noticed what she needed and provided it. Leora's fear began to soften, replaced by confusion. Everything she had been taught about humans said they were selfish, aggressive, and dangerous. But Jiho was thoughtful, patient, and kind. Her mind told her to stay afraid. Her empathic senses told her he was genuine. 2 months into the project, disaster struck. A coolant leak in the engineering section caused a minor explosion. Alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency protocols activated, sealing sections automatically. Leora and Jiho were reviewing vendor contracts when it happened. The room's emergency shutters began to close. Debris from a damaged ceiling panel fell toward Leora. She froze, unable to process what was happening fast enough. Jiho moved faster than she thought possible. He crossed the room in an instant and pushed her aside. The debris struck him instead, a heavy piece of metal hitting his shoulder and back. He grunted in pain but kept his body between her and the falling wreckage. The emergency shutters completed their cycle. The alarm stopped. Silence filled the room except for Jiho's heavy breathing. "Are you hurt?" he asked, still shielding her with his body. "No, You protected me." "Of course." He straightened up slowly, wincing. His uniform was torn and blood seeped through the fabric on his shoulder. "You are badly injured," Leora said, her voice shaking. "Why would you do that?" Jiho looked at her like she had asked why water was wet. "You were in danger. What else would I do?" Station security arrived minutes later. Medical personnel took Jiho to the infirmary. Leora went with them, ignoring the surprised looks from the medical staff. She sat outside his treatment room, her mind racing. Jiho had not hesitated. He had not thought about the danger to himself. He had simply acted to protect her, someone who had spent months avoiding him, fearing him, treating him like a monster. The door opened. A human doctor emerged, a woman with kind eyes and gray hair. "He will be fine," she said. "Bruised ribs, torn shoulder muscle, minor concussion. Nothing a human cannot handle. He should rest for a few days. Can I see him?" The doctor smiled. "He has been asking for you." "Go ahead." Leora entered the room. Jiho sat on the medical bed, his shoulder bandaged and his arm in a sling. He smiled when he saw her. "I am sorry for worrying you," he said. "You saved my life." Leora's voice trembled. "That debris would have killed me." "I am glad you are safe. But you were hurt because of me." Jiho shrugged with his good shoulder. "Injuries heal. I would make the same choice again." Leora felt tears in her eyes, a rare thing for Valerians. "I have been afraid of you since the day we met. I have treated you poorly, and still you protected me." "Your fear was never personal," Jiho said gently. "I understand where it comes from. Humans have a difficult history. We have done terrible things to each other and to other species in the early contact years. Your caution was reasonable, but you are not terrible. You are kind and thoughtful and brave." "I try to be, but I am still human, Leora. I am still capable of violence and aggression. That part of me exists. I just choose not to let it control me." His honesty struck her deeply. He was not denying what he was. He was not pretending to be something else. He acknowledged the danger in his nature and chose to be better than it. "I want to understand," Leora said quietly. "I want to stop being afraid." Jiho's expression softened. "Then we will work on it together. No pressure, no expectations, just 2 colleagues learning about each other." Over the next week, while Jiho recovered, Leora visited him every day. He told her about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests. He showed her pictures of his family, his sister Hyerin, who studied alien biology, his father Doyen, who taught music at a university. "Your father teaches music?" Leora asked, surprised. He plays piano and composes. He always said music was humanity's way of making beauty out of chaos. Leora looked at the photo of Doyen, a man with gentle eyes and gray hair. I did not think humans created beauty. I thought they only created weapons. We create both, Jiho admitted. We are complicated that way. When Jiho returned to work, something had changed between them. Leora no longer flinched when he entered a room. She sat closer during meetings. She asked questions about human culture and actually listened to the answers. The fear was still there, a quiet presence in the back of her mind. But it was no longer the loudest voice. Now there was curiosity too, and something else she could not quite name. Something that felt almost like trust. Leora sat in her quarters late at night, unable to sleep. Her tablet displayed article after article about human history. She had been researching for hours, trying to understand the species that had saved her life. What she found both terrified and amazed her. Humans had fought wars that killed millions. They had created weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. They had polluted their own world and hunted species to extinction. The list of human violence was long and brutal, but that was not the whole story. Humans had also created medicine that saved billions of lives. They had made art so beautiful it brought people to tears. They had written music that could express emotions words could not capture. They had sacrificed their own lives to save strangers, jumped into freezing water to rescue drowning people, run into burning buildings to carry out children. One article particularly struck her. It was about human relationships with animals. Humans had domesticated wolves, turning apex predators into companions they called dogs. They kept these animals in their homes, trusted them with their children, loved them like family. No other species in the galaxy had done something so remarkable and strange. Another article discussed human philosophy. Despite their violent history, humans had developed complex ethical systems centered on compassion, justice, and protecting the weak. They had concepts like human rights that applied to everyone regardless of origin. They had created organizations dedicated to helping others, expecting nothing in return. Leora closed her tablet, her mind spinning. Humans were not monsters. They were not angels either. They were something in between, capable of terrible darkness and incredible light. The next day, Jiho invited her to a video call with his family. She almost declined, but curiosity won over fear. Jiho's sister, Hyerin, appeared on the screen first. She was younger than Jiho, with bright eyes and an enthusiastic smile. So you are Leora? Jiho has told me so much about you. I study xenobiology, and Valerian empathic abilities are fascinating. Do you really sense emotions through electromagnetic fields, or is it more of a pheromone-based system? Hyerin, let her breathe, Jiho said, laughing. Sorry, I get excited about research. Hyerin grinned. It is nice to meet you, Leora. Then Jiho's father appeared on screen. Doyen had the same gentle eyes as his son and gray hair that reminded Leora of silver starlight. He smiled warmly. Hello, Leora. My son speaks highly of you. He says you are an excellent coordinator. Thank you, Leora said softly. Jiho told me you teach music. Doyen's face lit up. I do. Music is the universal language. Every species has some form of it. Would you like to hear something? Before she could answer, Doyen began playing his piano. The music flowed through the speakers, soft and gentle. It reminded Leora of water moving over smooth stones, of wind through crystal forests. She felt tears forming in her eyes. When the piece ended, Doyen smiled. That is one of my compositions. I call it First Light. It is about the moment when darkness becomes dawn. It is beautiful, Leora whispered. After the call ended, Jiho looked at her with concern. Are you all right? You seem emotional. Your father's music. I felt such peace from it. Such hope. Leora wiped her eyes. How can a species capable of such beauty also be capable of such violence? Jiho was quiet for a moment. I think the two things are connected. We feel everything intensely, both the darkness and the light. Our capacity for violence comes from the same place as our capacity for love. We are passionate beings, for better and worse. That is what frightens me, Leora admitted. The intensity of human emotions overwhelms my senses. It feels like standing too close to a fire. Then we will give you space when you need it. There is no shame in that. Over the next few weeks, Leora continued her research. She watched documentaries about Earth, studied human literature, and listened to human music. She learned about their concept of found family, the idea that love could create bonds as strong as blood. She learned about human heroes, ordinary people who had done extraordinary things to help others. One evening, she was reading about human rescue workers when the station alarm sounded again. This time it was not a drill or an accident. Pirates had breached the outer docking ring, attempting to steal valuable cargo. Leora sealed herself in her quarters as protocol required. Through her door she could hear weapons fire and shouting. Her empathic senses were flooded with fear, anger, and determination from all directions. Then she felt something else, a steady, calm presence moving through the chaos. She recognized it immediately. Jiho. The fighting lasted 20 minutes. When the all-clear sounded, Leora emerged from her quarters to find the corridor filled with security personnel. Human security forces were treating wounded pirates, giving them water and medical attention. She found Jiho helping a wounded pirate, a Grelkon male with green scales and 3 eyes. The pirate had been shot in the leg and was in obvious pain. "Easy," Jiho said gently. "The medics are coming. You will be fine. Why help me?" The pirate gasped. "I tried to kill your people. Because you are hurt and I can help." "That is reason enough." Leora watched, stunned. The pirate had attacked them, had tried to steal from them, had endangered everyone on the station. And still, the humans treated him with care and dignity. Later, she found Jiho in the security office writing his incident report. He looked tired but unharmed. "You protected the pirates," Leora said. "The ones who attacked us." "We protected everyone," Jiho corrected. "The pirates included. They were defeated and wounded. At that point, they were not enemies anymore. They were just people who needed help." "I do not understand. On my world, we have no enemies because we have no conflict. But you have enemies, and still you help them." Jiho leaned back in his chair. "There is a human saying, we fight so others do not have to. Our history taught us terrible lessons about violence. We learned that hatred and revenge only create more suffering. So we try to break the cycle. We fight when we must, but we show mercy when we can. That requires great strength," Leora said quietly. "It requires remembering that our enemies are people too. They make bad choices, but that does not make them less than human, or less than Grelkon or Valerian or any other species." He smiled tiredly. "Besides, today's enemy might be tomorrow's friend. The galaxy is too small for eternal hatred." Leora thought about this as she returned to her quarters. She thought about Jiho running toward danger to protect others. She thought about human medics treating wounded enemies. She thought about Doyen's beautiful music and Hyeron's infectious enthusiasm. She thought about everything she had learned about humans over these past months. Yes, they were dangerous. Yes, they came from a violent world and had a brutal history, but they had taken that violence and learned from it. They had chosen to be more than their worst impulses. Humans fought, but they fought to protect. They could kill, but they chose to heal. They could hate, but they chose to show mercy. That night, Leora made a decision. She would stop seeing Jiho as a representative of a dangerous species. She would see him as an individual, as the kind and thoughtful person he had proven himself to be. It was still frightening. His intensity still overwhelmed her empathic senses sometimes. But she was beginning to understand that intensity was not the same as cruelty. Fire could burn, but it could also warm. The trick was knowing how to approach it safely. The next morning, she arrived at their meeting early. When Jiho entered with his usual 2 cups of tea, she smiled at him. A real smile, not forced or polite. "Good morning, Jiho." His face lit up with surprise and pleasure. "Good morning, Leora. You seem well today." "I am," she said, accepting her tea. "I have been thinking about what you said yesterday. About fighting so others do not have to. Oh, it is a good philosophy. A brave one." She met his eyes directly for the first time since they had met. "I think I am beginning to understand humans better." Jiho's smile was warm and genuine. "I am glad. And I would like to understand Valerians better too if you are willing to teach me." "I would like that," Leora said. And she meant it. The fear was still there, a faint echo in the back of her mind. But it was no longer the loudest thing she felt when she looked at Jiho. Now there was curiosity, respect, and the beginning of something she had never expected to feel toward a human. Friendship. The Galactic Cultural Exchange was a tremendous success. Species from across the Coalition had gathered on Meridian 7 to share their traditions. The Valerian Light Singers had performed to standing ovations. The human jazz ensemble had amazed everyone with their improvisation. Food, art, and music from 100 worlds had filled the station with joy. Leora and Jiho stood together at the closing ceremony, watching the final fireworks display through the observation deck windows. Colors exploded against the darkness of space, beautiful and brief. "We did it," Jiho said, smiling. "We did," Leora agreed. "It was perfect." But as she watched the fireworks fade, a strange sadness settled over her. The project was finished. Their assignment together was complete. There was no reason for them to continue working closely together. By tomorrow, they would return to their regular separate duties. She realized she did not want that. Over the past 6 months, seeing Jiho had become the best part of her day. Their morning meetings, their afternoon work sessions, even their disagreements about scheduling and logistics had all been enjoyable. He made her laugh with his dry humor. He listened when she talked about missing her homeworld. He remembered small details about her preferences and habits. When had she started looking forward to seeing him? When had his presence stopped being frightening and started being comforting? "Leora?" Jiho's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "Are you all right?" "Yes, I was just thinking. This project is over. We will not be working together anymore." "I suppose not." He sounded sad too. "Unless you would like to volunteer for the next cultural exchange program. They are planning one for next year." Hope flared in her chest. "Would you volunteer too?" "If you were there, yes." They looked at each other and something unspoken passed between them. Leora's empathic senses picked up his emotions, warm and complex and tender. It made her breath catch. The next week felt strange. Leora returned to her regular duties, processing cultural liaison requests and managing visitor documentation. It was boring work compared to planning the exchange. Worse, it was lonely. She found herself walking past Jiho's office, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. She took her lunch breaks at times when she might see him in the cafeteria. She volunteered for any assignment that might bring them together. Other aliens on the station noticed. Her friend Kessa, another Valerian who worked in medical research, confronted her in the cafeteria. "You have feelings for the human?" Kessa said bluntly. Leora nearly dropped her tray. "What? No, we are just colleagues." "Leora, I have known you since we were children. I can tell when you are lying." Kessa's silver eyes were concerned. "This is dangerous. Humans are too intense for us. Their emotions are overwhelming. Jiho is different. He is kind and gentle. They are all kind until they are not. Human relationships are passionate and consuming. They feel love like we feel pain, sharp and all-encompassing." Kessa touched her arm. "I worry about you. Your empathic senses are strong. A human's emotional intensity could damage you." "I know the risks," Leora said quietly, "but I cannot help how I feel." That night, Leora could not sleep. She kept thinking about Jiho, about the way he smiled, the way he listened, the way he had protected her without hesitation. She thought about his father's music and his sister's enthusiasm. She thought about his quiet strength and his capacity for mercy. She was falling in love with him. She had been falling for months, too slowly to notice until it was too late to stop. The realization terrified her. Humans loved with frightening intensity. They wrote poetry about dying for love. They fought wars over it. They created art that captured its beauty and pain. If she opened herself to loving a human, she would be exposed to all of that intensity, all of that passion. But the thought of not loving him was worse. 2 weeks after the exchange ended, Leora received a message from Jiho. He asked if she would like to have dinner with him, not for work, just as friends. She said yes before she could second-guess herself. They met at a small restaurant in the station's entertainment district. It served food from various worlds, allowing different species to eat together. Jiho was already there when she arrived, and he stood when he saw her. "You look lovely," he said. Leora touched her formal robes self-consciously. She had spent an hour choosing what to wear. "Thank you. You look well too." They ordered food and talked. Not about work, but about other things. Jiho told her about learning to play piano from his father. Leora shared stories about growing up on the Valerian homeworld, about the crystal forest that sang in the wind. "I would like to see your world someday," Jiho said. "It sounds beautiful. I would like to show it to you." The words came out before she could stop them. Jiho smiled, and she felt his happiness like sunshine. "I would like that very much." As dinner continued, Leora noticed other diners watching them. A Valerian and a human dining together was unusual enough to draw attention. She tried to ignore the stares, but they made her uncomfortable. "We are being watched," she said quietly. "I know. Does it bother you?" "A little. We are unusual." "We are," Jiho agreed. "But I like unusual. Normal is overrated." After dinner, they walked through the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions, beautiful and distant. They walked in comfortable silence until Jiho stopped at a quiet viewing area. "Leora, I need to tell you something," he said. His voice was serious. "I have feelings for you. Romantic feelings. I have for a while now." Leora's heart raced. She could feel his nervousness, his hope, his fear of rejection. "Jiho, let me finish, please." He took a breath. "I know you were afraid of me when we first met. I know you are probably still cautious around humans. I understand if you cannot return my feelings. But I needed you to know. You are remarkable, Leora. You are intelligent and thoughtful and brave. Working with you these past months has been the best part of my time on this station." "You have feelings for me?" Leora repeated, stunned. "I do, but I will not pursue them if it makes you uncomfortable. I value your friendship too much to risk it. If you want things to stay as they are, I will respect that." Leora stood frozen, overwhelmed by his emotions. He was being completely honest, laying his heart bare despite the risk. She could feel his love for her, warm and strong and terrifying in its intensity. "I am afraid," she whispered. "I know. I will give you space if you need it." "No, you do not understand." She looked up at him. "I am afraid because I have feelings for you too, and I do not know what to do with them. You are human, and humans love so intensely it frightens me. Your emotions are like fire. They could burn me." Jiho's expression softened. "Then we will go slowly. We will learn together. I do not want to hurt you, Leora. But what if you cannot help it? What if your intensity is too much for me? Then you will tell me and we will find a way to make it work. Or we will decide it cannot work and remain friends." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, he gently took her hand. "I will not pressure you. This is your choice." His hand was warm around hers. She could feel his pulse, steady and strong. Through her empathic senses, she felt the depth of his feelings. Yes, they were intense. Yes, they overwhelmed her in moments. But they were also beautiful, pure and genuine. "I want to try," she said softly. "I want to see where this leads." Jiho smiled, and his joy nearly knocked her over with its force. "Really? Really? But slowly, as you said. I need time to adjust to how much you feel. We will take all the time you need." They stood there holding hands, watching the stars. Leora was still afraid. The intensity of Jiho's love was like standing next to a bonfire, overwhelming and warm and dangerous. But she was tired of being afraid. She was tired of letting fear control her choices. Jiho had proven himself over and over. He was kind, patient, and gentle despite his capacity for violence. He had protected her, respected her, and cared for her without asking for anything in return. If that was what human love looked like, then maybe it was worth the risk. "Jiho," she said quietly. "Yes? Will you play piano for me sometime? Like your father did?" His smile was radiant. "I would love to." As they walked back through the station together, Leora felt something shift inside her. The fear was still there, a quiet presence she might always carry. But it was no longer the strongest thing she felt. What she felt most now was hope. 3 months passed. 3 months of quiet dinners, long walks through the observation decks, and evenings listening to Jiho play piano. 3 months of learning to navigate the intensity of human emotions and the gentleness of human love. Leora had never been happier, or more terrified. They kept their relationship private at first. Not secret exactly, but quiet. They wanted time to understand each other without outside pressure. But on a space station, privacy was an illusion. The news broke when a Valerian journalist visiting the station saw them having dinner together. She recognized Leora and took a photograph. By the next day, it was across every Valerian news network. "Cultural liaison in relationship with human diplomat," the headlines screamed. Some were neutral. Many were not. Leora's personal messages exploded. Friends sent worried inquiries. Colleagues sent congratulations or warnings. And then came the message she had been dreading. It was from her mother. "Leora, what are you doing? A human? Have you lost your mind? Come home immediately. We need to talk about this." Her father's message was shorter but colder. "You shame our family. Leora sat in her quarters staring at the messages. Her hands shook. She had known her family would disapprove, but seeing their rejection in written words hurt more than she expected. A chime at her door. Jiho stood outside, concern clear on his face. She must have sent distress through their developing emotional bond without meaning to. Leora, are you all right? She let him in and showed him the messages. He read them silently, his expression growing sad. I am sorry, he said quietly. I knew this would be difficult, but I did not want to cause a rift with your family. It is not your fault. They do not understand. Maybe I should talk to them. Explain that I care about you, that I will protect you. Leora shook her head. That would make it worse. They are afraid of humans. Having you try to convince them would only confirm their fears. More messages came over the following days. The Valerian government sent a formal inquiry about her relationship status and whether it affected her ability to serve as a cultural liaison. Conservative Valerian groups published articles about the dangers of human-alien relationships. They cited statistics about failed cross-species marriages, warnings about biological incompatibility, and fears about cultural contamination. Kessa visited her, looking worried. The Valerian Council is pressuring you to end this relationship. I know. Leora, I want you to be happy, but this is becoming a political issue. Some counselors are calling for your dismissal from the Cultural Liaison program. Let them. Leora's voice was firm. I am not ending my relationship because it makes them uncomfortable. I admire your courage, Kessa said softly. I really do. Just be careful. The pressure will only increase. She was right. Within a week, Leora received a formal summons to appear before the Valerian Cultural Oversight Committee. They wanted to discuss her inappropriate relationship and its impact on Valerian human diplomatic relations. The meeting was conducted via video conference. 5 elderly Valerians sat in judgment, their silver eyes cold and disapproving. Leora, daughter of the Crystal Forest clan, you have brought shame upon our people, the head counselor said. Humans are dangerous, violent beings. Your relationship with one sends a message that we approve of their aggressive nature. With respect, counselor, that is not true. Jiho is gentle and kind. He has shown me nothing but respect. All humans seem gentle until they are provoked. Their emotional volatility makes them unstable partners. Every species has individuals who are unstable. Should we judge all humans by their worst members? Another counselor spoke up. We judge them by their history. Wars, weapons, violence. These are human traits. They are also capable of great compassion, creativity, and love. I have seen this firsthand. You are blinded by emotion. This is exactly what we feared. Human intensity is corrupting your judgment. Leora felt anger rising in her chest, an emotion she rarely experienced. My judgment is clear. I choose to be with Jiho because he is a good person, not despite him being human. You fear humans because you do not understand them. We understand them perfectly well. We will not allow this relationship to continue. You will end it, or you will be recalled to the homeworld and removed from your position. No. Silence fell. The counselors stared at her in shock. Valerians did not defy their elders. It was not their way. What did you say? The head counselor asked. I said no. I will not end my relationship. If you wish to remove me from my position, then do so. But I will not abandon someone I love because you are afraid. She disconnected the call before they could respond. Her whole body shook. She had just defied the council, thrown away her career, possibly destroyed her family relationships. All for a human she had known for less than a year. Was she insane? Her door chimed again. This time it was Hyerin, Jiho's sister. The young woman looked excited and nervous. I hope it is okay that I came. Jiho told me what is happening with your council. I wanted to offer support. That is kind of you. Leora let her in. I also wanted to say that I think you are amazing. Standing up to your entire government for love, that takes serious courage, or serious foolishness. Hyerin smiled. Sometimes they are the same thing. Can I tell you something? When Jiho first told me about you, I was worried. Not because you are Valerian, but because I know how intense my brother's feelings can be. He loves deeply, almost too deeply sometimes. I was afraid he would overwhelm you. He does overwhelm me sometimes, Leora admitted. His emotions are so strong they make my empathic senses ache. But you stayed anyway. I stayed because the overwhelm is worth it. He makes me happy. Then the council is wrong to try to separate you. Hiran's expression turned mischievous. You know what would really upset them? What? Marry him. Leora's eyes widened. What? Marry my brother? Show the council and everyone else that you are serious about this relationship. Make it official. That is a huge step, I know, but you just defied your entire government for him. Marriage is just making it formal. Hiran paused. Unless you have doubts? No, Leora said slowly. No doubts. Just fear. Fear of what? Fear that I am not strong enough for this. Fear that human intensity will eventually be too much for me. Fear that I will fail him. Hiran took her hand gently. Love is not about being strong enough. It is about choosing each other every day, even when it is hard. My brother would never ask you to be stronger than you are. He loves you as you are. That evening, Jiho came to her quarters. He looked tired and worried. Before he could speak, Leora said, Marry me. He froze. What? Marry me, Jiho. I want to spend my life with you. Leora, you do not have to do this because of the council. I will wait as long as you need. I will support whatever choice you make. I am not doing this because of the council. I am doing this because I love you. I want everyone to know that I choose you, that you are worth everything I might lose. Jiho's emotions crashed over her like a wave. Joy, love, fear, hope all mixed together in overwhelming intensity. Tears ran down his face. Are you sure? Really sure? I have never been more sure of anything. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple silver ring alongside a crystal that glowed with soft blue light. I've been carrying this for 2 weeks, he admitted. I wanted to ask you, but I was afraid it was too soon. Too much pressure given everything happening with your council. What is the crystal? It is a Valerian light-bonding crystal. I researched Valerian marriage customs. The crystal is exchanged alongside rings in human tradition. I wanted to honor both our cultures. Leora felt fresh tears in her eyes. He had learned her traditions. He had prepared for this moment. He had respected her culture while sharing his own. Yes, she whispered. Yes to everything. Yes to you, to us, to our future together. He slipped the ring on her finger and placed the crystal in her palm. She felt its warmth, the way it responded to her touch. In Valerian tradition, bonding crystals linked two people's life forces, allowing them to sense each other across distances. They held each other as the crystal's light grew brighter, accepting their bond. Outside, Leora knew her family was probably receiving notification of her decision. The council would be outraged. Conservative groups would condemn her. She did not care. Let them rage. Let them disapprove. She had found something precious and rare, something worth fighting for. She had found love with someone who saw past species and fear to who she truly was, someone who protected the weak, who created beauty, who chose kindness even when violence was easier. Humans had taught her what real courage meant. Now she would show her own people what courage looked like. Together, she and Jiho would face whatever came next. The wedding was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Planning it became an exercise in navigating two very different cultures while facing opposition from one of them. The Valerian government sent increasingly hostile messages. They threatened to revoke Leora's citizenship. They warned that she would never be welcome on the homeworld again. They called her a traitor to her species. Only a handful of Valerians agreed to attend. Kessa, despite her initial warnings, stood firm beside Leora. You are my oldest friend, she said simply. I will not abandon you now. A few other Valerian colleagues sent quiet messages of support, but her family remained silent. No messages, no calls, nothing. The silence hurt more than their earlier anger had. Jiho's family was the opposite. Hiran threw herself into wedding planning with enthusiasm. Doyen composed a special piece of music for the ceremony. Jiho's cousins, aunts, uncles, and friends all sent excited congratulations. Your family is so loud, Leora said one evening. Watching Jiho scroll through dozens of messages from various relatives, he laughed. They are excited. A wedding is a big deal in human culture. An interspecies wedding is even bigger. My Aunt Soman is bringing her entire restaurant staff to cater. I am sorry my family is not as welcoming. Jiho set down his tablet and took her hand. I am marrying you, not your family. Their absence is their loss. The wedding would be held in the largest observation deck on Meridian 7, with the stars as their backdrop. They had worked with both human and Valerian tradition experts to create a ceremony that honored both cultures. The morning of the wedding, Leora stood in her quarters wearing traditional Valerian robes. They were made of fabric that shifted colors like the crystal forests of her homeworld, pale blue fading to silver. Kessa helped her arrange her hair with small luminescent crystals that would glow during the bonding ritual. "You look beautiful," Kessa said. "I look terrified." "That too." Kessa smiled gently. "Second thoughts?" "No, I am just afraid of disappointing him. What if I cannot handle the intensity of a full emotional bond? What if my empathic abilities cannot adjust to being permanently linked to a human? Then you will figure it out together. That is what marriage is, Leora. Figuring things out together." The observation deck had been transformed. Flowers from Earth and light crystals from Valeria created a beautiful blend of both worlds. Chairs were arranged in neat rows, filled with guests from a dozen different species. Leora was surprised to see so many non-Valerians supporting them. Music played softly. Doyen's composition gentle and hopeful. Leora walked down the aisle alone, since her family had refused to participate. It hurt, but she kept her head high. Jiho waited for her at the altar, wearing formal human attire mixed with Valerian elements. A human officiant and a Valerian elder stood ready to conduct the ceremony. The Valerian elder was a retired diplomat named Soren, who had worked with humans for decades and understood them better than most. The human part of the ceremony came first. Exchanging rings, making vows before witnesses. Jiho's hands trembled slightly as he slipped the ring on her finger. "I, Jiho, take you, Leora, as my wife. I promise to honor you, protect you, and love you for all my days. I promise to be patient with your fears and grateful for your courage. I promise to share my world with you and learn about yours." Leora's voice shook as she spoke her vows. "I, Leora, take you, Jiho, as my husband. I promise to stand beside you, to trust your strength and gentle your intensity. I promise to be brave enough to accept your love and open enough to return it. I promise to build a bridge between our worlds." Then came the Valerian bonding ritual. This was the part Leora feared most. In Valerian tradition, marriage involved linking empathic abilities, allowing couples to sense each other's emotions constantly. It created a bond that lasted until death. For a Valerian to bond with a human was unprecedented. No one knew what would happen. The intensity of human emotions might overwhelm her senses completely. Elder Soren held up the light bonding crystal, now charged with both their energies. "The crystal bond is sacred to our people. It joins two lives into one shared path, but it requires absolute trust and openness. Leora, are you certain you wish to proceed?" She looked at Jiho. His love radiated from him like heat from a star, intense and overwhelming and beautiful. She could face this. She could be brave enough. "I am certain." Soren placed the crystal in her hands, then covered them with Jiho's. "Open your minds. Open your hearts. Let the bond form." Leora closed her eyes and lowered all her empathic barriers. For the first time since meeting Jiho, she allowed herself to feel everything he felt without any protection. It was like being thrown into a fire. His love crashed over her in waves, so powerful she gasped. But it was not just love. There was fierce protectiveness, the kind that made him shield her from falling debris without thought. There was profound tenderness, the care he took to learn her culture and respect her needs. There was fear, too, fear of hurting her, fear of being too much for her delicate senses. And underneath it all was something she had not expected. Vulnerability. Despite his strength, despite his dangerous nature, Jiho was afraid. Afraid of losing her, afraid of not being good enough, afraid of the judgment they would face. Humans felt everything intensely, yes. But that meant they felt pain intensely too. They felt fear and doubt and insecurity. They were not invulnerable monsters. They were people who chose to be brave despite their fears, who chose to be kind despite their capacity for violence. Leora felt tears streaming down her face. She had been so focused on human strength that she had missed their fragility. Jiho was strong, but he could be hurt. He was capable of violence, but he chose peace. He was intense, but that intensity made his love more precious, not less. The bond settled into place, warm and permanent. She could feel him now, always. His presence in her mind, his emotions a constant background awareness. It was intense, yes, but it was also comforting, like having a piece of home wherever she went. Jiho opened his eyes, and she saw tears there too. "Are you all right?" he asked, concerned even now. "I am more than all right. I understand now. Understand what? Why humans are the way they are. You feel everything so deeply because that is how you survived on your world. You had to care intensely about your families and tribes to protect them. You had to feel fear intensely to avoid dangers. You had to love fiercely to build communities that could survive. She touched his face gently. Your intensity is not a flaw. It is what makes you human. The ceremony concluded with celebration. The reception was loud and joyful, filled with music and laughter. Humans danced with abandon, their joy infectious. Other species joined in, creating a wonderful chaos of movement and sound. A Terran Marine, a friend of Jiho's, gave a speech. I served with Jiho during the Outer Rim conflicts. There was a situation with hostile forces, civilians trapped in crossfire. Everyone wanted to go in fighting. Jiho talked them down instead. No shots fired, no casualties. That is who he is. He could have fought, but he chose peace. Leora, you chose well. Hiren spoke next, crying happy tears. My brother has always been the serious one in our family. Always thinking, always worrying. But since meeting Leora, he smiles more. He laughs more. She makes him happy in a way I have never seen. And Leora, welcome to our loud, chaotic family. We promise to only overwhelm you occasionally. Even Kessa spoke, her voice carrying across the room. I was afraid for my friend when she told me about Jiho. I thought humans were too dangerous, too intense. But I was wrong. I watched Jiho care for Leora with such patience and gentleness. I watched Leora become braver and happier. Love is not about being the same species or having the same background. Love is about seeing someone truly and choosing them anyway. These two see each other truly, and that is beautiful. As the evening continued, guests from various species approached Leora. A Centaurian engineer said his daughter was dating a human, and seeing Leora's courage helped him accept it. A Trilaxian scientist admitted she had always been afraid of humans until she saw this wedding and realized they were just people like everyone else. Late in the evening, Doyen played piano while couples danced. Jiho led Leora onto the floor. She had never danced to human music before, but he guided her gently, their new bond allowing her to anticipate his movements. Thank you, he said softly. For what? For taking a chance on me. For being brave enough to love someone you were taught to fear. For standing up to your whole government and family. You are the bravest person I know. You gave me a reason to be brave, Leora replied. You showed me that fear should not control my choices. They danced among the stars, two people from different worlds building a bridge between them. Around them, the celebration continued. Humans laughing with Valerians, species that had been strangers becoming friends. This was what love could do, Leora realized. It could break down walls that politics could not. It could create understanding that laws could not mandate. One person choosing to love across the boundaries of fear and prejudice could change things. As the bonding crystal glowed softly between them, Leora felt something shift in her heart. The last remnants of fear finally dissolved. She was not afraid of Jiho anymore. She was not afraid of his intensity or his strength or his capacity for violence. She had learned the truth. 1 year after the wedding, Leora stood before a lecture hall filled with students at the Galactic Academy. The room held young people from 24 species, all studying interspecies relations and cultural diplomacy. She had been invited to speak about her experience as the first Valerian to marry a human. She looked out at the faces before her. Some were curious. Some were skeptical. A few Valerian students looked distinctly uncomfortable. 1 year ago, I was terrified of the species I would eventually marry into, she began. I had been taught that humans were dangerous predators, violent and unstable. I avoided them. I feared them. The thought of touching one made me physically ill. She paused, touching the bonding crystal that hung around her neck. Through it, she could feel Jiho's presence. He was in a meeting 3 levels below. But she knew he was there, steady and warm. Today, I'm going to tell you why everything I believed about humans was both completely true and completely wrong. She spoke for an hour. She told them about meeting Jiho, about how he had respected her fear without taking it personally. She told them about how he had shielded her from debris, about how human security forces had treated their enemies with dignity. She told them about human music and art and philosophy. Humans are from a death world, she explained. This is fact. Earth is a planet of extremes where weather can kill and predators hunt efficiently. Humans evolved to survive in this environment. They are persistence hunters. They can run for hours. They heal from injuries that would kill most species. Their capacity for violence is real and documented. A Valerian student raised her hand. Then how can you say we were wrong to fear them? Because violence and danger are not the same as evil, Leora replied. A fire is dangerous. It can burn and destroy, but it can also warm and illuminate. The question is not whether something is dangerous, but how that danger is used. She showed them statistics. Since joining the Galactic Coalition, humans had been involved in fewer violent conflicts than most other species. They had developed more humanitarian aid programs. They had created more cultural exchange initiatives. Their capacity for violence existed, but they chose to channel it into protection and service. Humans have a saying, Leora continued. We fight so others do not have to. This philosophy defines them. Yes, they can fight. Yes, they are dangerous. But they are dangerous to those who would harm the innocent. They use their strength to protect the weak. She told them about the wedding, about how Elder Soren had supported them when most Valerians condemned them. She told them about the bonding ritual, about opening her empathic senses fully to Jiho's emotions. I was afraid his intensity would destroy me, she admitted. Human emotions are overwhelming to Valerian senses. But what I discovered was that intensity is not the same as instability. Humans feel deeply because that is how they evolved to care for each other. Their fierce emotions create fierce loyalty, fierce compassion, fierce love. After the lecture, students approached her with questions. The Valerian students were especially interested. How do you handle the emotional intensity every day? One asked. It was difficult at first, Leora admitted. But I learned to adjust my empathic filters. I learned when to open myself fully to his emotions and when to shield slightly. And honestly, the intensity became one of my favorite things about our bond. I always know how he feels. There are no misunderstandings, no hidden resentments. Everything is honest and open. Another student, a young human woman, asked quietly, Were you afraid your people would never accept you again? I was terrified. My family disowned me. The Valerian government tried to force me to end the relationship. I lost my position as a cultural liaison for several months. Do you regret it? Never, not even for a moment. Leora smiled. And things have changed. After the wedding, other Valerians started questioning their fear of humans. More interspecies relationships began forming. The government could not ignore the trend forever. This was true. In the year since her wedding, 3 more Valerian human couples had formed on Meridian 7 alone. Kessa, who had warned Leora about human intensity, was now dating a human engineer named Minho. She had come to Leora, embarrassed and confused, asking how to handle her own developing feelings. I thought I was being a good friend by warning you, Kessa had said. But I was just repeating prejudice without examining it. I'm sorry. You are examining it now, Leora had replied. That is what matters. After the lecture, Leora returned to the quarters she shared with Jiho on Meridian 7. The space was a blend of both cultures now. Valerian light crystals cast soft glows alongside human plants that Jiho tended carefully. Music from both worlds played softly in the background. Jiho was home early, working at his desk. He looked up when she entered and smiled. How was the lecture? Good, challenging. Some students are receptive. Others still carry their fear. She sat beside him. How was your meeting? Productive. The council is finally agreeing to increase cultural exchange programs between Earth and Valeria. Your marriage has done more for diplomacy than 100 formal negotiations. Leora felt a flutter in her stomach. She had been waiting for the right moment to tell Jiho her news. Now seemed perfect. Speaking of our marriage, she said carefully, there is something I need to tell you. Jiho's concern spiked through their bond. Is something wrong? No, something is very right. She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. I am pregnant. His emotions exploded through their bond. Joy, fear, wonder, love, all crashing together in a wave that made her gasp. Human Valerian pregnancies were rare and carried risks, but medical science had advanced enough to support them. Are you sure? How long? Are you healthy? Is the baby healthy? The questions tumbled out. I am sure. About 6 weeks? And yes, both the baby and I are healthy. I saw the medical team this morning. Jiho pulled her into a careful hug and she felt tears on his face. Through their bond, she felt the depth of his joy. Vast and overwhelming and beautiful. We are going to be parents, he whispered. We are going to be the first Valerian human parents in known history, she corrected. Our child will be a bridge between our species. Over the next few months, as her pregnancy progressed, something remarkable happened. News of the baby spread across both human and Valerian communities. The Valerian government, which had condemned her marriage, suddenly became interested in the pregnancy. Medical teams wanted to study it. Scientists wanted to understand how human and Valerian genetics could combine. And then, 5 months into her pregnancy, Leora received a message she never expected. It was from her mother. "Leora, we have been wrong. Your father and I have spent this year watching you from afar. We see how happy you are. We see how gentle your husband is with you. We see that our fear blinded us to the truth. May we meet our grandchild when they are born?" Leora cried when she read it. Jiho held her as she processed the message. "Do you want to respond?" he asked gently. "I do not know. They hurt me so badly. They did. And only you can decide if you want to forgive them. Whatever you choose, I support you." After much thought, Leora responded. She would allow her parents to meet their grandchild, but rebuilding their relationship would take time. They had to understand that Jiho was part of her family now, and their grandchild would be both human and Valerian. Her parents agreed. 7 months after the lecture, Leora went into labor. The delivery was complicated as expected with a hybrid pregnancy, but human and Valerian medical teams worked together flawlessly. 12 hours later, she held her daughter in her arms. The baby was beautiful. She had pale blue skin like her mother, but with warmer undertones from her father. Her eyes were silver, but larger and more expressive than typical Valerian eyes. She had a full head of dark hair and tiny hands that grasped Leora's finger with surprising strength. "She is perfect," Jiho said, his voice thick with emotion. "What should we name her?" Leora asked. "Something that represents both our worlds, something about bridges and hope." They named her Narai, a Korean name meaning wings, representing her ability to fly between two cultures. Her Valerian middle name was Lumina, meaning light. Narai became a symbol. News of her birth spread across the galaxy. She was living proof that humans and Valerians could not only coexist, but create something beautiful together. More interspecies relationships formed. More barriers fell. The Valerian government officially apologized to Leora and Jiho, admitting that their opposition had been based on unfounded fear. They invited the family to visit the homeworld, promising a warm welcome. When Narai was 3 months old, Leora was invited to speak at the Galactic Academy again. This time she brought her daughter with her. "A year ago I told you about fear and love," she began, holding Nari in her arms. "Today I want to tell you about transformation." She explained how her journey with Jiho had changed her completely. She was no longer the frightened woman who could barely look at humans. She had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but action despite fear. "I was afraid of humans because I did not understand them," she said. "I saw their capacity for violence and assumed it defined them. But humanity's capacity for violence is matched by their capacity for compassion.